One of the biggest uncomfortable truths you discover as a founder is that you can get out of the valley of despair faster with great partners. The problem is most people get partners wrong, pick industry advisors, consultants, and investors to help them through one of the most difficult stages of building their business. What we uncovered growing my old business and in the counterparts community, it's much faster to get out of the valley of despair if you just work with founders that are just slightly ahead or going through what you're going through. You get much better solutions and you avoid critique and you can be way more honest. So that's what we're going to get into today, which is how we created the war game to make that a repeatable process for all of our community members and lean into getting entrepreneurship from I to we with a simply weekly ritual that we run at CounterpartOS. Let's get into it. One of the big things that you need to understand at stake is why do you want to get out of the valley of despair and why do you want to get out of it fast? If it's not simple to you, getting out of the valley of despair means you'll have more repeatable sales. If you stay in longer, you'll burn cash, you'll burn team members, and eventually you'll burn your mind. And sometimes a lot of founders quit just before they almost get out or before they realize that they're actually in it because they're unable to diagnose. And that's because they're completely alone. So I want to break down why that happens, how it happens, and our solution, the war game, to get you out of it. And the war game is something really simple. It's just we go into a room, one founder has an opportunity, and we provide them solutions to unleash the opportunity, to increase the deal size, or to unlock it if it's stuck. And we created it because when we were building our first business, we found ourselves really alone until we built a repeatable ritual to get our teams out of it, to get us out of it, and to get our business out of the valley of despair faster. And so why it happens is that founders actually create it, and they create it by seeking advice. And when you build a business, advice feels comfortable. You have an investor that's done it before, you have an industry advisor that you're paying for, or you have a consultant that may or may not have done something around it but understands the industry. And so every time you get a problem, you go to them to help you with that problem. And that includes deals where you can actually get yourself out of the valley of despair faster because you're creating cash. And so what ends up happening is that every time you have a problem, you're giving that information out to each one of these individuals. And every time they have their own opinion, and because they're not close enough to the situation, they're not close enough to your own opportunity, or maybe they just have a specialist skill being a consultant, everything that comes back is just critique. Here is how I would do it. Here is how you could do it. Here's what you're doing wrong. And all of the time, we're always going to end up in a space where you're overwhelmed by advice. You're exasperated for putting it out there. And in the case that some of these people are investors, you're probably actually holding back the truth. And so are they because they've made a gamble. And everyone isn't addressing the elephant in the room. So we spend a lot of time pushing our energy out and getting critique back because we're seeking advice. And a lot of the time, that advice is, although well-intentioned, is misplaced, creates a lot of doubt, makes you feel like you can't do it because you're surrounded with people that have done it before and maybe done it a lot of times, and they're very far ahead of you in a different season. And you end up feeling alone and further into the valley of despair along I. And a lot of times you try stuff that's just a tactic, that's not strategic, that's not thoughtful, or maybe something that worked in an old market that's not currently working in your new market because some of the people you surrounded yourself did it 15 years ago. I found myself in the exact same situation, and I always found myself going, that's all cool, but I'm not worthy. I don't have the courage to do it. Or in the cases where I was completely exasperated and frustrated, I didn't take in any of the advice at all and went into my mindset that my original idea must be right and I'm going to execute that, and then most of those failed anyway. So at my old business, we created a ritual to remove the bias, remove the loneliness, remove the perceptions, and just go straight at the truth. And we called it a war game ritual. And the difference is you come into the room, and anyone could come into the room with a deal opportunity. Rather than taking industry consultants and advisors, we just brought in entrepreneurs that were at the same stage or slightly ahead that we knew and that we'd worked with a lot, or other account executives that were working on solutions and selling the same solution at the same time. Effectively, we had banned all advisors and all consultants from it, so we could completely strip critique out of it and just work with people who are on the tools, doing the work and making it happen. And how we've built it, and it's what we do in the Counterpart community today, is that one person enters with an opportunity. The group is allowed to ask questions to clarify the scenario. Then they break out into groups. And rather than the founder asking questions of them, they present the solutions based off the scenario that they're in that the founder can then act on. Super tactical with here's where you need to go next, and here is what you need to say to get there. And then all of a sudden, rather than being exasperated from a number of questions, getting hit with a lot of critique, having to dig and dig, which you can find yourself feeling really lonely, you're getting hit by groups with solutions who've gone away and thought about your scenario, brought it back to you, hoping that you can create value. And at the same time, everyone has a vested interest in you winning, whether it's learning new skills and working and networking with others who are dealing with the same situation. And so it takes this environment of getting advice and reframes it to just focusing on getting solutions that are creative, that you haven't tried, from multiple groups. And how we avoid critique is that rather than just going one-to-one, we have the founder in the middle, and each breakout group is providing the solution back. A clear outcome, easily stated, done quickly, but done with directness and without any critique or feedback. Just, here's what I would do, here is how you could do it for your scenario tomorrow. That coming together as a group eliminates a significant amount of negativity and forces the group to focus on the real situation versus their own bias, which provides an environment for the founder to feel significantly supported as each of these groups come together and provide unique solutions, and the group as a whole bonding as a community around the deal and making other people feel rewarded. So when they have an opportunity, they also feel safer and being more honest. It is a bold idea, but it is something that's easy and well executed, and it's a fundamental unfair advantage of our Counterpart community. But if you think if you've been stuck in the valley of despair too long, just try working with your co-founders, your salespeople, or other small businesses that are at the same stage or slightly ahead, and ask them what they think of a deal, and just make sure they work on it in groups versus one-on-one, and you can get the same result. But if you're interested in taking advantage of this, you can come join our war games. They're at 9 a.m. Eastern and 3 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday. If you want to get out of the valley of despair and move from I to we. And before you go, that just sounds like a waste of time. We get fucking great results. Over the last 84 war games, we've got 11.2 million attributed revenue from the solutions provided by the groups of founders to the founder in the arena. And we've also invested 6,096 hours in other members without any transaction, without any commitment, and no bias. Just founders turning up to create value for one another as they try to pull themselves out of the valley of despair and help others pull themselves out too. So if that sounds good, and you don't want to be alone, and you want to work with others, and you want bolder solutions, and you don't want to drown in the valley of despair for too long, come join us at a war game. We'll unleash a deal. We do it every week. We do it twice a week. And you'll be pulled out just by people that have left the valley of despair or are still going through it. And all of those days of feeling you're not worthy, you're frustrated and overwhelmed by the comfort of critique will go away. As we go at the truth, we give you solutions and we create value, and we move entrepreneurship from being a lonely game of I to a game of we, and get that enterprise deal faster.